for coming. I have a prepared statement, and then we can do some questions regarding the statement. I'm joined by my command staff, and this is Nick Petiti. He is our director of the Office of Business Intelligence. So at times, I may refer to him if you have a specific question about statistics that I can't answer. So thank you for attending today's briefing, the purpose of which is to keep you advised and informed of crime and critical incidents for 2021. Most of the statistics that I will talk about today are available on the RPD Open Data Portal. However, we will also be providing them in writing to all media outlets at the conclusion of this event. I would like to start by thanking all of our federal, state, and local partners who continue to assist us in our efforts to make Rochester a safer place. As we all know, like many other cities in our nation, Rochester, New York has not been immune to an upswing in firearm-related violence. The following are some overall 2021 statistics presented year-to-date. It's actually for the year 2021. So, a crime overview. Overall, Part 1 crimes are down 11% from 2020 and 13% from the 5-year average. Violent crime incidents, however, do remain elevated after the 2020 spike due to significant increase in assault shootings and murders. However, property crime reductions have offset the violence increase in the overall totals due to a significant reduction in burglaries and larcenies. Homicides. In total, the Rochester Police Department must sadly report 81 homicides that occurred within our city borders in 2021. Fortunately, due to the efforts of our agency, 41 of those homicides have been closed by an arrest, representing a 50.6% clearance rate for this year regarding homicides. Naturally, we strive to solve all crimes of this nature, and the investigations into these crimes endure as we continue to push that clearance rate higher. We will actively investigate substantial leads in every homicide case, no matter when it occurred, as we are committed to solving these crimes without regard to duration or time limits. I'd also like to take a minute to mention and remind everyone of our Homicide Cold Case webpage, where anyone who wants to look at our still open cases or cold cases can take a look at the cases there. Bank robberies. We had a total of 13 bank robberies, with 11 of them resulting in arrest at this time. The two most recent cases are still under investigation. Again, this credit is owed to our officers in the field participating with our support teams in the federal government. Currently, we can present an 84.6% clearance rate regarding bank robberies, and it is our intent that we solve those final two cases in order to achieve 100% clearance rate. Firearms. The Rochester Police Department collected a total of 994 firearms in 2021. 710 of these weapons were handguns, and 284 of these weapons were long guns. These figures do include the 2021 gun buyback program, in which 162 handguns and 94 long guns were turned in. Included in these figures are defaced and stolen weapons turned in during the buyback program. As part of these gun seizures, 45 of these weapons were home-manufactured ghost guns, and 73 of these weapons were stolen from and recovered for other agencies not within the city of Rochester limits. Narcotics. In 2021, 147 narcotics-related search warrants were executed in the city of Rochester by our Special Investigations Section and our partners in Granite, which is the Greater Rochester Area Narcotics Enforcement Team. As a result of this collaborative effort, approximately 20 kilograms of cocaine was seized, approximately 5 kilograms of heroin, fentanyl, were seized, approximately 233 pounds of marijuana was seized, and $1.2 million in cash seized pursuant to narcotics investigations, with 163 people being arrested and charged with various narcotics and weapons-related offenses. It is our hope that pursuing those who would sell illicit and deadly narcotics will have a positive impact and help mitigate and prevent our current opioid crisis and related unattended deaths that are plaguing our society. Having given a brief summary regarding our major incidents and crime concerns, I will shift the briefing to discuss some of the measures and techniques that are being adopted and followed to assist us in driving these reported crimes downward. So, anti-violence and crime initiatives. Moving into 2022, we will continue to build upon our initiatives with our partner agencies. The RPD looks forward to working with incoming Mayor Evans and his plan for joint community-based efforts for crime reduction. Some of the items we are specifically involved in are the Marshals Task Force. We have increased the number of police officers assigned to the U.S. Marshals Task Force. This expansion was helped in cooperation with the New York State Police and the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, who also provided members, and of course is run and coordinated by the United States Marshal Service. Their particular mission is to target and arrest known violent offenders. In 2021, 350 total arrests were made by the task force for various felony offenses. 70 of those subjects were wanted by the Rochester Police Department. This is a coordinated effort with an emphasis on violent offenders, and while we are seeing some results, there's much more work to be done. GIVE. Some of you have heard me talk about our GIVE initiative. This is a grant program. It stands for Gun-Involved Violence Elimination. The initiative and the Rochester Police Department focus on 4 core elements to prevent or interdict gun violence. They are people, which means we focus preventative and enforcement efforts on top offenders. Places, which means we focus preventive and enforcement efforts in hotspot geographic locations. Alignment, which means we coordinate with partners such as probation, parole, the district attorney's office, and social agencies such as Pathstone and SNUG. And finally, by engagement. We use some of our GIVE resources to do organized outreach to other stakeholders in the community. Regarding community engagement, Rochester needs a comprehensive anti-violence initiative that involves outreach, street workers, social programs, and interdiction. As always, we are committed to an invite to the table and work with all stakeholders who are impacted regarding this problem. We will continue to work and coordinate with civic leaders, community groups, health organizations, teachers, parents, and outreach workers. The answer cannot be found solely within the Rochester Police Department. There must be collaboration, trust, and support. We are grateful to have a Community Affairs Bureau that reaches out and interacts with neighborhoods and community groups. The work they do you don't often hear about, but it is quite critical. It establishes positive contacts, helps build rapport, generates relationships founded on trust. I am also proud of the charitable work and volunteering work being done by officers not only in between calls for service, but in their own off-duty time, which they do quietly and without fanfare, and often is not heard about. So what can we do better as an organization? Following every major incident, the command staff and the Rochester Police Department engages in what is called a critical incident review. The purpose of these reviews are to see what worked out well and what we can be doing better. Along these lines, we also apply this technique in reviewing our day-to-day operations of the Rochester Police Department in order to see what is working well and to see what we can be doing better. It is a goal to drive this down to street-level supervisors and officers so that they may, on a regular basis, also critique their performance and improve same. Historically, the RPD has prided itself on being one of the most progressive agencies in the nation. We strive to continue that legacy and continue increasing transparency as we move into the future. We know that 2022 is going to be a challenging year due to our staffing situation. Officers and investigators are being subjected to an extra amount of workload and stress, and it is a concern that we take very seriously. So much so that it is one of our priorities to combat this was the creation and implementation of the Officer Wellness and Resiliency Unit, details of which we will be rolling out to the media early in 2022. We are eager to share with you our plans on this unit, designed to improve our officers' well-being as they continue to serve the citizens of Rochester during these particularly challenging times and beyond. Additionally, we will also be broadening our recruiting efforts without lowering our standards in our hiring process. In closing, I would like to say that I am and always have been proud to serve. Despite our challenges, we have been here and we will continue to be here for this community, and we will continue to answer calls as we are sworn to do. and do our best to keep Rochester safe. Thank you, and I'll take a few questions.
The 994 firearm recoveries, is there any statistics that show which guns that were recovered originated outside of New York State?
Yes, there are. I don't have them specifically, but we can get them to you. Nothing else?
No, there's. So, you said 81 homicides happened last year. How
Yes.
many of those happened to be under the age of 18?
Again, I don't have specific numbers here in front of me. We can get that to you. One trend that we are concerned about is, the decreasing age in our victims and the decreasing age in our suspects. Again, it speaks to the fact that, this violence is not something we're going to be able to arrest our way out of. It is based in a lot of social structure and social ills that, we need outreach and we need partnerships to help reach out to these youth who are, susceptible to being drawn into this violent behavior.
And how important are those 40 other cases in regards to the 81 homicides? How much are you guys working on them now?
So each case is actively worked on. I don't have the exact, I don't know if there's an exact date when something goes cold. This goes into cold cases. Usually it is actively worked on until it reaches a point where there are no more leads that can be followed up. And then what happens is it is a cold case, but it's periodically reviewed every so often. Mostly because, what we've seen lately is technology changes. So there could be a case that was unsolvable 2 years ago, but now because of a change in technology, there may be something that we could resubmit to the lab or something else that we could look into. So there's a cold case squad. They routinely review those cases to see if there's anything we can do to bring them to a prosecution.
Chief Smith, can you talk about the role of Nick Petiti and what he does for the department? And he's obviously not someone that most of the public is familiar with, so how important is the intelligence work and the data-driven work that he does?
Well, honestly, we couldn't get along without it. We do evidence-based policing. We do enforcement based on, hard data. So without Nick and his folks, we really wouldn't have the hard data to work on.
Sir, in 2021, I heard a number of times that a lot of the violence that sort of jumped out was kids on social media, not being in school, but having fights over social media that erupted onto the streets later on. In 2022, kids seem to be more in school. Do you see that trend sort of shifting itself with younger people with violence?
Well, I would hope so. It's too early in the year to tell, but it definitely is a driver. I've said that on more than one occasion when people ask, what can we do? I say as a parent, again, know what your kids are doing. Be involved with your children. Take a look at their social media. I mean, I'm a parent of 5, and every once in a while, I am still surprised by what I see on my children's social media. So, we all need to be involved with our children, and we all need to be involved in our community.
Can we ask some questions of Nick?
Yep.
Nick, could you just kind of describe what your role is, describe what you do, and kind of just provide an introduction to, some of the intelligence and data-driven stuff that you've been focusing on for the last number of years that you've been with the department?
Sure. My group, excuse me. My name is Nick Petiti. I run the Office of Business Intelligence. Our group is primarily focused on strategic technology decisions for the department, managing major projects, and utilizing data to build better process workflows and to better analyze our crime data.
So what sort of role then do you play in coming up with policing strategies or policies? Like how does the work that you're doing impact what you might see out on the street?
Sure. So we're constantly reviewing policies and procedures and best practice from other agencies. We are abreast of most of the academic literature surrounding specifically violence reduction and strategic programming to support police activities. Our job is to bring that data to the administration, to break down what's in the academic literature, what the data supports, how we could fundamentally collect that data here, how we could look at it, and how we can better analyze what we're currently doing.
And how long have you been with the department now?
Close to 15 years.
And how many people are under are under your, or in your division?
Sure. So it was 3 up until about a year and a half ago, and we have recently just we just got part of the ARPA money, the federal COVID-related money, to beef up the Office of Business Intelligence with 5 new data analysts, which we are currently advertising for right now. And then we have consolidated a couple other departments into the Office of Business Intelligence, including the new CAU that Chief Harriet created last year, and that's the Compliance and Audits Unit. And our body-worn camera unit is also now underneath the Office of Business Intelligence and all of FOIL.
Chief Smith, can I ask you another question?
Sure.
Thanks, Nick.
Yep.
So, since 2022 started, we've seen a 14-year-old who was killed, 3-year-old just shot last week, a 17 and an 18-year-old also shot. Speak to that a little bit. What's your reaction to that?
Well, first of all, I'd like to credit, my folks with making arrests in those. My message, first of all, would be, if you have an illegal gun and if you're going to use that illegal gun in the city of Rochester, we're coming for you. But that being said, again, it's not a situation we're ever going to arrest our way out of. We need to work on preventing these things from happening in the first place. And again, that is going to depend on street outreach, community programs, and many of the things that the Evans administration is looking to bring to Rochester based on the New Jersey model. And we look forward to working with them on that.
You said you're a father of 5, though, too. These kids were, one was a 3-year-old that was sitting there, 14-year-old walking to the corner store to get food. They weren't doing anything. This wasn't gay. Speak to that a little bit as a father of 5.
Yeah, well, again, it's all emotional. It's, and I would never, try to downplay the grief that obviously these families are feeling and what they're going through. But, the officers and everyone in this department that responds to all of these, all of that affects you in some little bit. And if you're going to try and say it doesn't affect you, then, you're just kidding yourself. It affects all of us every day.
You mentioned the legal guns just now. How much of a priority will legal guns be for RPD going forward in tracking how much legal guns that originate out of state come into New York State, and how much of a priority would that be for your department going forward?
So there's some tools that have recently become available to us that we didn't have before as far as tracking. But most times, we have to have the crime gun to know that it's a crime gun to track backwards. But what we do have the ability to do that's much greater than it used to be is to tie firearms-related events together. So we now have the ability, if the evidence is there, that we could say this shot's fired here is related to this shot's fired there and this one. And it helps to develop patterns and intelligence that although we may not have the final piece to the puzzle, when we get that final piece, it all fits together. Okay? Thank you.
So any further questions, feel free to submit to me by email.
Can I just ask the chief one thing?